I just got ding-dong ditched. Yeah, right as I'm setting up the camera to record this episode, the doorbell rings and this kid just skips town. And I'm right by the front door when it happens, and then I go out there to look, no one's there, and then you just see this kid bolting through the backyard. And you know what? I'm not even mad about it. I give him an E for effort because he got caught running away. When I played Ding Dong Ditch growing up, I didn't get caught. I was like a ninja. Nobody ever saw me, I'm pretty sure of it. Except for this one time I was with my buddy Josh, and he was always punking out, not really doing it, just acting like he did it. So one time he goes up to ring a doorbell and I just stand there as he books it. I'm like, you didn't ring the doorbell. And he starts laughing and he keeps running. And I just stand there waiting. I'm like, see, nobody's coming. And then I look and then the door swings open and I book it. But yeah, I'm not even mad. I always wondered what people thought when people would get ding dong ditch, but you know, I'm not mad at all. I'm just surprised there's kids out there playing that aren't on their phones and tablets. I don't know, I kind of wanted to catch up with them and join them in ringing doorbells. Could you imagine explaining that one to the cops? Full grown man hiding out in the bushes? I don't know, you ever been in one of those situations where you just can't explain yourself? I was at a party once and a noise complaint got filed on the party. So the cops showed up in front of the house where we were, and I hightail it through this person's house out the back door, and I didn't realize that the cops had the whole house surrounded. And I ran over to a gate there and I just started playing with the top of the gate like I was trying to fix something. And then of course the cops come over and say, hey, what are you doing? And I'm just like, I had no answer for it whatsoever. But anyways, I just got done picking up my NES shelf this past weekend. And if you haven't seen the video yet, at the time you see this episode, it's probably been a week or two. So go back and check out that video, it's really cool. But that was like the smoothest road trip I ever took in my life. The plan was to meet with Beat 'em Up Brian at 6 o'clock in the morning and then take off from there. You know, if I planned a road trip with my family to leave at 6 o'clock in the morning, we wouldn't have been on the road till like 7:30. But I woke up, got dressed, went and got gas. Brian got there at like 5:40, and by 5:45 we were on the road. And it was a 4-hour trip up to Missouri, and it was mostly back roads. There wasn't a lot of traffic, and it was just smooth going all the way up there. And we're so spoiled today. Phones and GPS, they make everything so easy, just following the directions that it gives you. There was this one trip like 21, 22 years ago that I took with my buddy. He worked at a car dealership and we had to go pick up a car in Wisconsin and we lived in Ohio. I forget how long the trip was, but back then we didn't have GPS and phones to go off of. We had MapQuest. Anybody remember MapQuest? You had to print out the directions. You print out a book like this thick. It gave you directions of where you're going, and it would go by mileage. It would tell you, hey, drive 1.1 miles on this road and then take a left. And then drive 87 miles on this road and make a right. But anyways, some customer at his dealership wanted this specific PT Cruiser. I don't know who would want a PT Cruiser anyway. Even back then, the cars are just ugly. But we meet up at his work at like 3 o'clock in the morning to get one of the company trucks to make this trip. And it's like the middle of winter in Ohio for this trip. So we get this brand new Dodge truck with a trailer that we're gonna tow up there. And as soon as we leave, the trip already starts going south. The heater in the truck doesn't work at all. So the entire trip, we're just freezing. And we're following these MapQuest directions, making wrong turns. And the trip was just absolutely miserable all the way up there. So after we finally get to the other dealership where this car's at, we end up taking the company truck that we took up there, trading it in for another Dodge pickup truck to be able to drive back to Ohio. So we get the other truck, we hook up the trailer, and then it's time to put the PT Cruiser on it. And this PT Cruiser has like some special ground effects or whatever, and as they're putting it on the trailer, the front end of this car just gets destroyed. So that made my buddy in a bad mood right there, like on top of everything else that was going on. We start heading back and it's already dark outside, so this was an extremely long road trip because we met up at 3 o'clock in the morning and it's already getting dark again outside. So we're super tired, still trying to thaw out from the trip on the way up there, bickering back and forth, still making wrong turns. I was really beginning to regret my life decisions of going with him. It's late on the highway and we're driving back, and at this point we can't stand each other. We're not even talking to each other. And he goes to crack the window and it's freezing. I'm like, dude, it's freezing, roll up the window. We've been freezing all day. And in pure anger, what does he do? He doesn't roll up the window, he rolls the window all the way down. And it was like slow motion. I saw it happening and it was like there's nothing I could do. I saw the MapQuest directions that were sitting in the center console just lift up and zip out the window. And we were both just quiet for a second, and then we both just bust out laughing and we had tears rolling down our face. I'm telling you what, you haven't been mad in life until you get so mad you start laughing hysterically. Yeah, I think we finally ended up getting home about 4 o'clock the next morning. And I'm pretty sure I didn't talk to my friend for a few weeks after that incident. But yeah, I've been waiting for another ring on the doorbell. That's the real adrenaline rush. After you do a ding-dong ditch, you gotta go back and hit the same house again. That's how you really get your heart pumping. Anyways, today we have 5 more games that we'll be adding to the collection. Let's check them out. And the first game up is Final Fight 2. Developed and published by Capcom, Final Fight 2 kicked onto store shelves in 1993. The Mad Gear gang is back, but this time instead of kidnapping Mike's daughter Jessica, they take Guy's father and fiancée Rena. So Rena's sister McKee contacts Mike Hager for help. You play as Mike, McKee, or Carlos. I had the most fun playing with Mike. He can headbutt, jump kick, body press, suplex, do a spinning pile driver, which is my favorite move, or he can do a spinning clothesline. The spinning clothesline is a super move and it drains your health bar when you use it. Although Hager was the most fun to use, he is the slowest. Carlos is the least fun to use. He has medium speed and power, and his moves just aren't as cool as Mike's or McKee's. He might be more fun to use if he could use his sword more, but he only whips it out for his super move. McKee is the fastest character, and I found her to be the best character to use. She's not as fun to use as Mike, but she is the better choice. I do like her super move the best, which is the spinning handstand. The controls are really smooth in the game and they handled a little better than the first game. The game also excels over the first game with the 2-player mode and 3 characters to choose from. But I'm not knocking on the first Final Fight game at all. You can't go wrong with either of the two. One thing that's odd about the game is it was Guy's father and fiancé that were kidnapped, but he's nowhere to be seen. Overall, if you're a fan of beat 'em up games, Final Fight 2 is worth playing. Final Fight 2 is game number 121 for the collection, and I have $280 in trade for it. And at $280, that brings our total up to $23,014 for the Super Nintendo Complete in Box Quest. And the next game up is John Madden Football. John Madden Football was developed by Park Place Production and published by EA Sports. It kicked onto the Super Nintendo in 1991. This was the first installment of the Madden series on Nintendo. Here you have all your standard stuff in a football game. You choose your plays and go. In this game, you're always running vertical up the field. That's nice because you can see everything that's going on the screen. There's a lot of soccer games we played where you can't see the goal when you're going down the field. Another thing I really like about this game is it has pass windows that pop up when you go to pass the ball. It allows you to see which of your teammates is open, which is really cool. It also comes in handy because the graphics are really pixelated and the frame rate is atrocious. So it's really choppy and hard to tell what's going on. The choppiness is worse whenever passing, so I avoided passing the ball as much as possible. On defense, the manual says if you're inexperienced, just hit the B button. Sit back and watch the computer do the work. I did this on the first game and it didn't work out too well for me. Another thing that's good in the game is being able to change the weather and field conditions. It didn't seem to change how the players handled much, but it was a nice touch. On the second game I played, I changed my strategy completely. I played defense instead of letting the computer. I found the controls to be really unresponsive, but I did manage to hold the other team off. On top of that, I changed my offense strategy to try and fool the computer. I'd choose passing plays that sent all my players to one side of the screen, and then I'd just run the ball to the other side. One thing I noticed is the game lets you make the most epic plays right before halftime when you're gonna lose the ball anyway. Overall, John Madden Football is below average, but it's playable. However, there are much better football games on the system. John Madden Football is game number 122 for the collection, and we've already covered the price of this game that we got in another lot. So that leaves our total at $23,014 for the collection. And the next game up is John Madden Football 93. John Madden Football 93 was developed and published by Electronic Arts and released for the SNES in 1992. Here's the second installment for the Madden series on the Nintendo. The graphics and frame rate were improved over the first game, but they're still not great. It is easier to see what's going on though. The game is still set up like the first one where you have pass windows, and it still works really well. The controls feel a lot more responsive when playing defense, but running the ball is really jagged. It's not a smooth experience at all. And oh, what's this? The game lets me make another great play right before halftime where I lose the ball. In Madden 93 they added an ambulance for injured players, which is pretty neat. I'll also say that this is the first football game I played where I literally laughed out loud after making a ridiculous run all the way down the field. And that happened not once, but twice in the same game. Overall, John Madden Football 93 is a better game than the first one, but there are still better football games to choose for the system. John Madden Football 93 is game number 123 for the collection, and I got it for $15 at a local game store. And at $15, that brings our total up to $23,029 for the SNES Quest. And the next game up is Micro Machines. Micro Machines was developed by Merit Studios and published by Ocean. It raced into stores in 1994. Originally an unlicensed NES game, Micro Machines is a top-down racing game where you race micro machines. You have two ways to play the game, head-to-head and challenge mode. There are 28 tracks across 8 environments. The tracks are the same whether you choose head-to-head or challenge mode. There are 11 different characters in the game and each have their own skill level, and it's very noticeable when you play. In head-to-head you race against one person and the goal is to leave the other car behind on the track. Once you get far enough ahead of the other player, you get points and the race starts over wherever you're at on the track. Once you get enough points, you win the race and move on to the next track. In challenge mode, you race against 3 other players. You can also use the multi-tap to race against 3 of your friends. This is more of a traditional race where you race 3 laps on each track. As you move through the tracks, characters will get eliminated and you'll pick a new opponent. So a good strategy here is to pick the hardest to beat players first on the easy tracks. You can also earn cars as you win races, and they're stored in a storage box that mimics a real-life Micro Machines case. The game feels a bit bare because it's just an updated version of the NES game. There's no music while racing, it's only engine noises and tire squeals. There are a few tunes in the menus, but they're nothing special. I will say that I enjoyed the NES version of the game, and this is an excellent remake of it. The controls are excellent, and earning new cars is both fun and rewarding. Overall, Micro Machines is a decent racing game for the SNES despite feeling bare bones. It's worth playing if you like top-down racing games. Micro Machines is game number 124 for the collection, and it cost me $151 shipped. And at $151, that brings our total up to $23,180 for the collection. Last and least is Bulls vs. Blazers in the NBA playoffs. Bulls vs. Blazers was developed and published by Electronic Arts, releasing for the SNES in 1992. Here we have a not so great basketball game for the Super NES. This game is really slow paced. The frame rate is really slow too, making the game super choppy. Everything blends together and it's hard to tell who even has the ball. And the players are made of pure iron. If you run into a player, you stop dead in your tracks. It's not like real basketball at all, because in real basketball, the players spend half their time on the floor faking fouls. Not in this game though. It's a chore to even make it down the court. Running past the defense isn't the only chore. The ball is blocked half the time when you shoot, and if it isn't blocked, you'll be lucky if it goes in. This is the lowest scoring basketball game I think I ever played. The only thing this game has going for it is it uses real teams and players. I'd actually choose Bill Laimbeer's Combat Basketball over this game. This is one to avoid. Bulls vs. Blazers is game number 125 for the collection, and it cost me $15 at a local game store. And at $15, that brings our total up to $23,195 for the Super Nintendo Complete in Box Quest. Let's get these games on the shelf. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to subscribe. I'm completing the entire Super Nintendo library, complete in box, right here on this show. Also, make sure to leave a thumbs up for Micro Machines. Until next time, I'm Gamer Wayne, and thanks for watching.